Hello, welcome to my channel for Evolved Humans. I am Ms. Day. Whew, okay, this is a reading for... This feels like a huge cut off and shift into a new chapter of your life. So I feel like whoever this is for, the heart of this reading is that you have unlocked your potential and that you have ended old cycles. So it's actually really, really positive. And I think that it's almost like, I feel like someone is asking, like, what comes next? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do with this? What do I do with this talent? What do I do with this skill? What do I do with this little fountain of knowledge or something? And what do I do with all of these things that I have overcome? And I feel like the answer is, it's not going to be shown to you. You are the creator of your future. And this is like, this is so, it's like balanced out as one reading, but the whole life feels like a huge ebb and flow, where some of us will, how if you're running your career and maybe you're a student and maybe you're learning to fix this in your house and maybe you're learning to fix this on your car, or you're learning this about like how to raise a child. You're learning all the time and you're like, you have different branches of your life. And then I think sometimes we get into this cycle of dropping the ball with like one of those branches at all times. And then we'll excuse it and be like, well, I'm not perfect. Of course I don't focus on what I eat all the time. And of course I don't work out the same way all the time. Or maybe I had too much screen time, but I also had to do this. And this kind of feels like you put an end to that. It's like you put an end to excuses and unlocked this huge potential for something that is, it's like the good that you have made available to yourself is equal to the battles that you have won. Because I think that you've had a taste of what it feels like to feel joy again. Like I think you've gotten a taste of a good connection again. But it's almost like this person underneath, like way back at the beginning of this journey, whatever this is that you worked so hard to maintain your path through, like you didn't stop. I think that what you've done it's a big ebb and flow. It's like it changed from you being timid into becoming confident, running ahead, experiencing everything fully, and then bam, you know better now. So you put an end to all of these like little compartments. Because I think it was all some sort of like cycle that you're ready to leave behind. Like I feel like you're ready to leave that behind and you're ready to go forward at all costs. Which is why sometimes it's so cool, because I think that it's like a parallel little message where they're like, okay, here's the little message that you want answered. Like you want to see what's in your little treasure box, like in your future that you're going to create now from this path that you've been on. But it's also like they're saying, well, I don't know what's going to happen. And I feel like that's positive though, like that's neat. And I know that doesn't always feel good. Actually, I think it's very irritating to whoever this reading is for. It feels like it's almost like an irritated feeling where you're like, well, how could I have unlocked something and still not be allowed to see it? And that's justified when you look at it that way. But I think that's when you have to, like, just seeing all of the information and wanting all of the information, like, it's just making me think of a baby. When a baby's like, I want to walk, like a hard-headed push to do something maybe they're not even ready to do yet. Any age kid, not just like a baby, but like my toddler. He's 3 and he is a total dude, like in his person. He wants to help me with everything physical that I could possibly do. And he literally just like, he's got to do it. He gets emotionally upset if he can't. So like if I'm moving a couch and I'm breathing heavy and stuff, he's like, he will cry because he can't help me. And this almost feels like that, where it's like, don't stop getting mad because you're impatient with yourself and with the outcome. It's almost like the outcome, you're impatient with that. But what they want you to do is prevent obstacles now as you go forward. It feels like literally like, okay, you've unlocked like this treasure cove, whatever this is. And it took a hard battle, which I think is recent, that you really overcome it and you've really gained clarity that like, yes, I'm out of that cycle now. So, and I understand like wanting to know what's the next step. What am I supposed to do with this? What do I do with this learned lesson? But when you go forward and like you know better, that's how you do better. You don't just magically do better because now you know. Now you've conquered. It's more so like now you have to put it to use in all of those different compartments. Now you have to decide where your energy is going to flow. Not just, okay, you've overcome ending that cycle, but what cycles are you going to start now? Because they all come to the same outcome. And when it comes to that outcome, that's personal. And it's like, I know it can feel really like infuriating to not know what that next step is. But the fact that you can overcome a series of different pathways of your own like cycle, your own one source of those cycles, that means that you as a creator of your future, it's a gift that the reins are in your hands. They're not saying, no, we won't show you because you don't deserve to see it. You're not special. You're not an oracle. Like, it's more so, we're not showing you because I'm thinking of what Jim Rohn, one of the things I've heard Jim Rohn say multiple times, and it was, and I'm going to attribute things to him every time I think of him, because he said that it meant to him, it meant more than his fortune did for people to just like say that he changed their lives. So he's always in my head. Anyway, one of the things that he said was that like one of his teachers told him, why don't you set a goal to become a millionaire? Not because, well, you need $1 million, but because of what you'll become in trying for that goal. And this feels like that, where it's like, why don't you decide what future you see? Oh my gosh. And I'm thinking of this thing I saw too. This is like years ago. I don't remember what this was, but there was somebody just journalist somewhere, and he met somebody and he was like, what is your goal? Why are you going to school abroad here? And she was like, because I want to be an architect. And he was like, what do you want to be when you've become an architect? What do you want to be at the end of your lifetime? And she was like, sort of dumbfounded, like, I don't know. I knew I wanted to be an architect, and now I don't know, is that not good enough? And his point was more like, what if instead of I want to be an architect, like I'm on my journey to get to something that I think will fulfill me, instead it was like, how do you want to be remembered? That's the purpose, right? Is that you do something with what your goals are. So it's like he made her think like, maybe the next time someone asks you that question, you'll say, I'm going to be the best architect of blah, blah, blah. I'm going to build blah, 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 something. Wish I had a cooler dream for that, but I don't. But like, that's what it feels like. Like the dream is in your hands. And I do understand that being a pain. And it can feel like almost too much pressure, but it's like, that's kind of what we fight our battles to get to. In the long run, really, that's what we're doing. We're just trying to gain that freedom again, where we're not just reacting to the world around us and we're able to contribute to it. So instead of, it's like you've gone through so many things where you broke your cycles and you broke your life habits. So it's like what they want you to see is that's a big force. I don't always do readings that feel like that. This feels like a big back and forth where when you go high, you go high. When you go low, you go low. And so instead of seeing it with that sort of like that irritable feeling when you're overstimulated, I just talked about this in a member's video, because I was just talking about how homeostasis is literally what happens every single time that you go through a transition, and your internal conditions are all going to change according to it. So like if you lose 100 pounds, you're going to have to re-regulate. One thing I mentioned in the member space that I feel like is important here is it's almost like when you get opened up, when you get aligned physically with yourself and emotionally, and you're like, okay, I have a stable foundation here to sort of intermingle with what's going on out here a little better. No matter what that is, whether that's like a spiritual practice or whether it's just typical relationships or even coworkers and you needed a vacation. If you open up before you're ready, it's like you can get drained over time to where you don't have very much to put out. And that's why we can become more irritable if you're just like, okay, well, I put efforts here and I put efforts here and I put efforts here. And I think that sometimes when you're creating your vision, the thing that Jim Rohn said about like, it's not about make a goal that makes you cool. It's about make a goal that's going to change you. Make a goal that's going to make you something you're not yet. And this is that. It's like what you've done, instead of becoming the future that you think that you should embody or know what it's going to be, it's like that's not how the future is created, because you're the creator of it. What you've done is you've cleared away the stuff that's holding you back from being a creator of it. So like instead of that future that you want to see it, you want to know what it is, they're like, what you've done is you've unlocked it. You've made your true potential possible. And that is good enough. Because that means this is your moment to be like, instead of dropping the ball, you can put all of it into one goal, which is, I don't know what the future result's going to be, but every single compartment of my life and every single branch outward from me into it is going to be for the creation of a future that I want to experience. And I know that sounds like I'm just saying, well, create a future even if you don't see it. But I am saying that because personally, like I had to take some time away. And some of that was due to personal stuff going on, like with me, with my children, other people in my life, but also because I kind of got shifted into a new spot, and I had to align with it so that I could speak it in a way that I felt comfortable with, instead of just like putting out so much that everything I'm trying to re-establish and rebuild underneath doesn't get my full attention. It doesn't get my full energy. And that made my attitude about the readings sort of like dissipate over time, where it was like taking all that I had left. But in reestablishing like a foundation with myself, I remembered that there's a fun part of not knowing what the next step is, and just trusting that the next step is aligned with the result that's going to be good. And I feel like when you've learned how to get out of the bad cycles, then your way of creating a new future that is for sure going to be good, even if you don't know what it is yet, even if you don't foresee a result, start to allow yourself to imagine one, even if it starts in a fantasy way, even if it starts as something that seems intangible. That means that you can start there and then kind of work your way back. Because once you plant an idea into your mind, then you have an opportunity to ask all of the right questions, like, is this possible? Is this possible? Is this possible? Is this possible? How do I make that happen if this is in the way? And it's like, I think that the most important part of this reading is knowing that I'm just hearing this line from Abraham Lincoln, which I know I'm hearing this line like a quote that I've seen recently of Abraham Lincoln, and it was, "He who has a heart to care has a right to criticize." And I feel like that's kind of what this is saying. They're like, I know you want to see what you're going to do with what you have learned and accomplished and overcome, but they're like, really what you've overcome and what you've accomplished and what you've been through is all the stuff that like you were never deserving of having to go through. Like, nobody deserves to have a fear of growing because of what they've been through in life. And I feel like you've overcome that to the point of full-on not only empathy but joy. My toddler's like cracking up in the other room, so that's kind of funny. I don't know if that'll be on here or not. We'll see. Anyway, it just feels really beautiful because I feel like in your survival techniques, you unlocked your own potential. So like I don't even feel like you had a direction already, but you attained your goals. You like got to where you needed to be able to create a future. So it's like, be patient with yourself and allow yourself the time now to not just survive, to not just make it. Instead, they're like, breathe. And that's why I think I wanted to bring up even my moment away, where it's like, when you need to organize your life, you need to organize your life. When you need to reestablish a way to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes that you just learned how to stop making, then you take that moment, because this is that moment. This is where it's like there's almost like an overpressuring because you need the results. But it's like, getting the results should not be a fearful avenue. It should feel like something you want to do. And I know that there are some people who are going to hear this. Like, I feel like there are people who are like, well, I have to go to work to do this. I have to go to this job and I hate it. And I'm hearing that because whatever you decide to feel about your experience. Okay, I'm hearing this genius woman that said, years ago, it wasn't that many years ago, but I think her name was Nicole Spencer, something like that. But she said that your thoughts are not they're not describing your reality, they're creating it. So just remember, oh, I have to go to work, I have to, like, even in the last week, I've tried upping myself into a new level with that, where it's like, oh, I hate that, oh, I can't stand that, oh, I hate this weather, that type of thing, which I don't, it's all rainy, which I love. But like, when you hear yourself saying or thinking something with that sort of negative spin, it's just a catalyst for the rest of your day. It's a catalyst for everything in your body, because like your brain is an example organ for everything throughout your entire body. So if you're thinking negative things, then you're not giving the rest of your vehicle anything to make it better. It's like just kind of sinking into an unpleasant attitude. And that's where I feel like what they're trying to do is remind you that you've already overcome that. So prevent a negative place again, prevent a negative news cycle starting, and see the opportunity instead of the burden. Because you can definitely handle it. And it feels like this whole, like, I keep hearing this desperate times call for desperate measures. And I feel like if you want the answer so badly, they're like, then make the answer. What's the answer? You answer that question. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Definitely let me know in the comments if this resonates with you and how. And I will see you in the next reading. All right, bye.